Hey, it's Sandra Nomoto, and I'm here to report on my takeaways from Rachel Ricketts Spiritual Activism 102, which I took yesterday, June 22nd, 2020. And the first thing I'll say is that there was a lot of same feelings that I had after completing Spiritual Activism 101. There were some new concepts she introduced, although they are concepts that I have been hearing more often recently. But I would say, so the first takeaway is that we were asked to think about how we as individuals or as a group internalize our oppression. So I thought a lot about how growing up I treated my own ethnic group, Filipinos. And so in the mid-90s, I remember as a preteen, it was a time when my family was immigrating and a lot of other Filipinos were immigrating to the country. And I remember using the word FOB a lot. So FOB is an acronym for Fresh Off the Boat. I use that quite a bit to point out immigrants that were attending our school or other family members, and not in a good way. And that is one big way I remember just not supporting my own ethnic group. Staying light in the summer. I mentioned my skin tone in the previous video, so that's another thing that I thought about, prioritizing whiteness. I've chosen to date white men pretty much, primarily before dating my now husband. So that was another way I prioritize whiteness. As I said in the previous video, I chose not to learn Tagalog. I had no interest growing up learning another language, and I remember a lot of times even mocking my parents' accents. Of course, we meant it jokingly, but, I never really asked them how they took that and how it must have made them feel. So that's another thing that I can remember. And also, one of the big reasons I think that I and my family don't really associate too much with the Filipino community in general is because there's a lot of gossip and sort of backstabbing and pitting against each other. Of course, we were around a lot of Filipino Canadians as I was younger and growing up, and I still have friends to this day who are Filipino Canadian, and I'm so grateful for them. But yeah, there's just that negative aspect that I think is really harmful, and it doesn't really help to put people of color in a better position. And so I just wanted to point that out as well. I don't have the solution for it, but I know that supporting instead of talking behind each other's backs is a better way to go. The course also went over anti-blackness and the ways that shows up. It also went over grief and how we stay in it, and that was another opportunity for me to self-reflect about how over the course of the first business I ran for 10 years, how I put the business above my own self-care. I did that many times. There were a lot of times I was super stressed and even suicidal. Some of you may know that post that I did 2 years ago. And that was all just because I was trying so hard to impress clients. I don't think that was necessarily a race thing, but it could have been subconsciously. I didn't really promote my Asianness, the fact that I was Filipino in business. And so, there's just that, to think about. And then, the last thing that I really enjoyed was, the healing aspect. And how, you can use your own ethnic group's method of healing. And I happen to have written about ancient Filipino healing practices for Cold Tea Collective. So if anybody out there practices Hilot Helat or Avalon, let me know. I might hire you. And then another way that I've been recently learning how to practice more self-care, aside from the meditation that I've been doing for almost 6 years daily now, is I'm using scents. So aromatherapy, incense, using some crystal healing. So, I wear malas quite a bit, and I'm very conscious of the stones that I use. Of course, recently I learned that you need to be aware of where you source the stones, because gemstones, are quite an old practice, and we need to be mindful of where stones are being sourced. So that's another thing to think about. And then I've also just been thinking in general about how I can support more people of color, especially women. And so I've thought many times about perhaps starting some sort of a directory for entrepreneurs who are Filipino women. It might already be out there, I don't know. But just something I'm thinking about. And then the last thing I'll say is, again, this course is just so accessible. It's 2 hours of your time plus reflection, and it's so reasonably priced. If you haven't done Spiritual Activism 101 or 102, I highly encourage you to do that, and I would love to see more men on the call. It looks like there have been more women taking Rachel's courses, and that is great and amazing, but I think we need to see more men of all races doing the work as well. So thanks for listening, and hope to see you engaging in a future post.